Hello and welcome to Breakfast Central. This beautiful Tuesday morning, reaching you live from the city of aquatic splendor, Lagos State. This is Breakfast Central. We'll bring you the right things to start your day. Insightful conversations, the latest news and discussions, and everything in between. I am Benga Aborowa.
And I am Olive Emodi, very delighted that you've chosen to start your morning with us. Many interesting stories will be explored this morning on Breakfast Central. But now it's time for our wake-up conversations. Starting off with news reaching us that INEC received Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan's recall petition. Now, a group of women have come together to allegedly sign a petition. The numbers we're seeing are about 250,000, which begs the question, where were all these people when the election was going on, you know, and where the last elections were happening? Because if you recall, Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan won over the APC candidate with 54,074 votes. So if we're seeing 250,000 votes, where were all these people? Now, the group, of course, has said that she hasn't conducted herself in the best possible manner. They are under the aegis of Kogi Central Women Development Association, and they have said that, of course, they've watered down her allegations of sexual harassment. Their leader and their spokesperson, Omole Charity Ijese, disclosed in Lokoja to newsmen yesterday, saying that it baffled them to know that a simple change of seat would degenerate into the situation. That's something that a simple apology could have fixed, and now Kogi Central constituents will be void of representation. And this is what we're seeing here. There have also been allegations about how the signatures may or may not have been fraudulently
I mean, we saw videos don't lie. The videos allegedly, yes, showed people doctoring and signing for others, the recall register. So, I mean, that's why we got those numbers. In 7 days, quite an astonishing number, double those that even registered to vote in the Kogi Central elections the last time they went out to the polls. It's quite, I mean, it's led to mixed reactions. So many people are saying, you know, hunger and poverty doesn't go well with poverty because people have a way of manipulating it for their own purposes. And the lady in green she's the head of that delegation that went to INEC with the Ghana Must Go bags to present all those signatures. But let's take a listen to what they had to say.
I think that we should separate issues from personality and leave Governor Yaya, former Governor Yaya Ado-Bayero away from this matter, and also leave the sitting governor away from this matter. If you're saying that the state government, it's okay for you not to be in the party where the state governor is from, where the state governor is. But is it the state governor that sent her again to go and misbehave in the Senate? No. So we should stop making it look like it's a personal vendetta. This thing is common sense. This thing is reality before us. We cannot afford not to have a senator representing us in the red chambers. And we're now recalling her. So I don't know why anybody will even think that somebody needs to tell us. We are not robots. We are not cows. We know what we are doing and we know what we want. We elected her as a senator. And the same representatives and electorates are now saying that she can no longer represent us well because she has chosen her ego over her people. She has chosen emotions over logic. Like I always say, logic will always and always win over emotions. And the game is the game. Politics is politics.
Very, very charitable from Madam Charity. She knows it all.
You know, well, much later, we'll be taking what Nigerians are saying because tweets have been put out reacting to this. One of the tweets was that charity begins at Akpabio, not at home. Speaking of at Yahaya, I can't remember which of them. Speaking of Akpabio and Yahaya, their names have also come into the conversation because in an interview with Punch newspaper, Debo Ologunagba alleged that this recall is not legit and it's politically motivated, stating that the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, and former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello are the masterminds behind this. There have also been projections that the reason they want to kick Natasha out is to bring Yahaya Bello in. Speaking of Yahaya Bello, what's up with Yahaya Bello's case? How far have we gone? Or is that matter also going to be swept under the carpet? So these are some of the conversations that we're having this morning. When that lady, Charity, was asked about sexual harassment and, you know, if that sexual harassment claim, if it didn't matter to her and if it should hold water in Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan's cause, she said that Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan is not a baby. She's above 40 years old. That if she's saying there's sexual harassment, she should bring claim. If she doesn't have claim, instead of going to embarrass us in the international community, that this matter was already before the Senate and Ethics Committee, but she's going out to embarrass us. Again, waiting woman do woman. This is International Women's Month.
I mean, it's
and
supposed
the
to be
position
woman
is
supporting woman.
it's really, I'm laughing about it, but it's not even funny. The very least that a number of Nigerians are asking for is that she has a fair trial. It's one thing for you to say, we didn't do anything, or I didn't do anything, nothing of the sort happened. If there's a case of sexual harassment, especially because it taints the reputation of the red chambers, it rubs a very nasty brush on them. And whether we like it or not, this thing will last a while. The international community is aware. The least we can do is grant a fair hearing, open up investigation.
Yes, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan is no pushover, and she has a right to seek justice, just like every other Nigerian. But staying in Kogi State, we're not leaving Kogi just yet. Just yesterday morning, as Nigerians went about their business, after the weekend, starting their Monday, prisoners in Cotton Karfe Medium Security, Correctional Center decided to make a break. They decided to jackpot out of the prison. 12 inmates escaped. News reaching us says a few of them have been captured. Man, what baffles me is that how do you try to escape in this present economic realities? Just give them 1 week outside, they would run back to the prison.
No,
They get free meals in prison.
No, to be honest, I can even understand why they would try to escape. Because if economic reality is hitting those of us that are quote-unquote free, imagine what the quality of life in the prison is like. Because when we were living a decent life, those in Nigeria's correctional facility center services, the one thing they talk about is their living conditions, how they're always packed in thousands. They have the most
overcrowded.
They're overcrowded. They're not giving proper food. I know someone who's gone through the system, and the first thing the person said was, it's traumatic. It's supposed to be a correctional facility, but you come out from that facility and you need rehabilitation because the post-traumatic stress disorder is worse than what you've experienced. It's not something you will get over. But it's not the first time we've seen prison breaks in Nigeria. If you date as far back as, I have a list of them here. Abakaliki prison break in 2005, Bauchi prison break, September 7, 2010. Now we have even this Cotton Cafe prison break. This is not the first time. It's happened in 2012 as well. So again, a reminder about the fact that what we call prison or what we call our correctional facilities, we need to look again into them, into the quality of life, into the state of living, and into the security. If we can't guarantee that, because at the end of the day, a number of these people are hardened criminals that have gotten into prison. There's a reason why they're in prison. Exactly. They've gotten into prison, gotten even further hardened, and now they're coming back to be reintegrated into the society. But then again, if we're a society that de-radicalizes terrorists and bandits, who are we to judge these people? But the officials say they are
on their heels. They've mounted checkpoints at the borders of the state, and there's no escaping. So we'll wait and see developments there, see what happens.
Absolutely. Now, talking about prisons or correctional facilities and living conditions, another living condition that is akin to what one would say is a correctional facility is what the situation is in APSU. Governor Alex Oti visited Abia State University, and it was a sore eye.
Just look at the video.
This is how people are living.
It's heartbreaking.
This is how students are living. This is how students are reading. These are the institutions they go through, to be able to come and, this is basically how they live. It's really sad. Anyway.
Let's just give you a caveat that some of these videos we're about to show will be, is very heartbreaking. So if you don't have the stomach for it, just please look away. It's very tragic.
To read here. We can read. I'm so sorry. We'll take out the why? I will give you about 3 months to build a functional cafeteria. Where do you go? And there's no light, right? So do you like this here? I'm so embarrassed. This is not a condition that is conducive for you to learn.
And that is the current situation of Abia State University. He has promised to pull it down and rebuild it and said that work will start in 1 week. But let us shock you. This video does not come as a shock to as many of us who have gone through the Nigerian university system. This is the reality of a number of universities, a number of higher tertiary institutions in Nigeria. How many people will come out and say that they schooled in better conditions than this? This is the current reality of what it is to go even in NYSC orientation camps. You go to camp and it's even worse than this. Imagine something worse than this, where people have foams that are almost flat. You can see bugs in them. In our camp, a number of us were having our bath outside because we couldn't dare to use the bathrooms because the bathrooms were terrible. They couldn't contain the numbers of us. So let's not act and start pretending not to know this is the reality of education.
And it's quite sad because yesterday, Olive, we were still discussing the state of education, primary school education. So it goes all the way. And if you go to the postgraduate halls too, there's absolutely no difference. And this is across the federation. And you wonder what is really going on. They are called ivory towers. Universities are called ivory towers for a reason. That is where you find the best in society. They're held to excellent standards. People don't walk on lawns. They're taught to be gentlemen and women. And I mean, it's not surprising when you see the quality of people that come out of these institutions. Because, I mean, how do you study and live in those environments?
And these are state universities.
And that's why parents are doing that. As we speak, there are over 100 university licenses waiting to be approved. Private university at the Nigerian Universities Commission, because no one, they've seen the gap that is very hard for parents who want to send their children to federal universities or state-run universities. And this used to be the best, not just in Nigeria, but across the whole West Africa and indeed the continent. And it's sad how we've slowly degenerated into what we have now. It's almost, everybody's talking about 2027. Look at our education system. We have commissioners of education in the different states in the country. Just to, again mention that this is the reality of a number of universities. When I went to school in my government hostel, we were 8 in a room. Bunk beds, 4 bunk beds in a room. Thank God I don't look like what I've been through. And some even pay for this accommodation.
No, not some. Shocked. You pay for the accommodation. The accommodation is not free. Yes, it's discounted, but it's not free. At the time, I think it was about 10,000
Some have even turned it to a business. You pay for a bed space and at highly inflated rate. Very, very terrible situation.
Anyway, this is the reality of what education in Nigeria is. Beyond the terrible living conditions, the epileptic power supply, a number of us had to do what we call awoko. Awoko meaning reading overnight. Maybe you've had a long day and you want to study at night. You're studying with candles, lanterns. Gen Zs, I don't know if they still use candles or lanterns or if they can relate, but a number of us use candles and lanterns to study. And it's a shame that the things our parents went through, we went through them. And I don't know if that's the current reality, in terms of studying, but it is a terrible thing. We need to do better to prioritize education because the quality of a nation is reflected in how much importance they've allocated to education. Just yesterday, we're talking about 20 million out-of-school children. So the ones who want to go to school, it feels like punishment. But
I mean, people say the country is good if things are getting better. I always tell people, if you want to know the state or the true state of a nation, go to a public hospital, go to a public university, and go to the prisons and see the living conditions, and you can make your judgment yourself. There are prisons in Europe that are in far better conditions than our higher institutions. That's just
and it's why private schools will continue to make a lot of money. They pay a lot, they charge a lot, because if the government schools can't even uphold decent education standards, decent living conditions, people will do everything that they can to send their children to private universities, or in the other cases, or better still, to send them abroad. Anyway, These are the conversations that we're having this morning. And share with us your thoughts. If you schooled in Nigeria, if you went to and I'm talking of government institutions, not private institutions. If you went to a government institution or a federal institution, what was the living condition like? Did you have better living conditions? Does this come as a jarring surprise to you, the state of things in APSU? But I'm hoping that this is just a charge to other governors, to other commissioners of education to wake up and smell the coffee. That's all we have this morning. Let's share with you our top stories here on Breakfast Central. Lagos State refutes Smelly City claims. They say that the state is evolving. We'll be joined by someone from LASEPA, a representative, to talk about the work Lagos is doing in that regard. Fuel marketers fear price hike as federal government suspends sale to Dangote. Tension in Kano over planned parallel Durbar by contending Emirs. Akpoti Uduaghan's recall, INEC receives petition. The next step will be, of course, to verify the signatures. The newspaper front pages will be reviewed as we do every morning, and we'll open the phone lines for you to join us for all these and more.
This is Breakfast Headlines. I am Benga Borowa. We begin in West Africa, where negotiations for a new political coalition aimed at challenging the ruling All Progressive Congress, APC, in the 2027 elections in Nigeria are nearing completion. This was confirmed by Saliu Lukman, a former APC vice chairman in the Northwest, who revealed this in a statement on Monday, that consultations are in an advanced stage, but no final decisions have been made. Lukman's comments follow last week's remarks by former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who during a press conference on the state of emergency in Rivers State announced plans to form a coalition of opposition parties to unseat the APC in the next election. Some constituents of the Kogi Central Senatorial District have submitted a petition to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, for the recall of embattled lawmaker Senator Natasha Akpoti Uduaghan. The petition presented by Charity Ejese on behalf of the constituents was received at the INEC headquarters by the Commission Secretary Rose Anthony in Abuja. The federal government of Nigeria has been accused, of attempting to smear the reputation of the suspended governor of Rivers State, Siminalayi Fubara. The Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria, HURIWA, who made the observation, condemned what it describes as unsubstantiated and reckless allegations by key federal officials linking the suspended governor to militant activities in the Niger Delta. The rights group, in a statement issued in Abuja on Monday, faulted recent claims made by the Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, and Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, alleging that Governor Fubara had ties to militant groups responsible for attacks on oil infrastructure. The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, has lent his voice to the call for the immortalization of the late Professor Humphrey Nwosu, who served as Nigeria's electoral chief from 1989 to 1993. Speaking at a tribute held at INEC headquarters in Abuja on Monday, Yakubu praised Nwosu's role in shaping Nigeria's electoral process, particularly his introduction of the Option A4 voting system and the open ballot system. Yakubu described the 1993 presidential elections conducted under Nwosu's leadership as one of the freest and fairest in the country's history, despite its annulment. In Central Africa, Angola has announced its decision to step down from its role as mediator in the ongoing conflict in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, citing the need to focus on its new responsibilities as African Union president. In a statement on Monday, the Angolan presidency confirmed it will coordinate with the African Union Commission to determine which countries' leaders should take over the mediation. President João Lourenço was appointed by the African Union in 2022 to help broker peace in the protracted conflict involving the Rwanda-backed M23 rebel group. And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. I am Benga Aborowa. Breakfast Central continues shortly.
Welcome back. There is palpable tension in Kano State following a parallel Durbar festival scheduled to hold by contending Emirs Aminu, Ado-Bayero and Mohammadu Sanusi II for the upcoming Salah celebration. This follows a prolonged emirate tussle in the ancient city, which is currently before the courts, but has stopped both contenders, though supported separately by the federal and state governments, from mapping out their plans. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu files in this report.
The post-emir Aminu Ado-Bayero arrives his Gidan Nasarawa Palace after attending the convocation of the University of Calabar, where he is the chancellor. While Bayero returns to prepare for his iconic Hawan Salah, Hawan Daushi and Hawan Nasarawa processions built for the first, second and third days of Shawwal 1445 AH, his rival and reinstated emir, Mohammadu Sanusi II, is already reaching out to all the state traditional rulers for the prestigious Hawan Durbar on Salah Day. This has caused unnecessary tension in the state, as supporters of both emirs have resolved to follow their principles, saying that they will not tolerate any interruptions, a situation that will need to be handled with caution.
zaka nemi wuri ka nemi rigima in kai haka ka nemi tashi hankali shi ma wanda yake san masoyinsa ya tsaya a gurin masoyinsa yayi abin da yake so ya faranta masa ya masa addu'a Allah saki shi lafiya duk wanda Allah bai shari'a ya samu goyon ba shari'a za mu bayan sa mu Kano mahaifin mu ce ana kaife mu
kowa zai nasa mu mun fi son kowa a bashi ya nasa abu Sanusi ya nasa amma abu Aminu ya nasa amma kowa ya raba hanya kan wani ya biyo hanyar wani.
You that are supporting Ado-Bayero, you should support Ado-Bayero. And for you that are supporting the other person, you support the other person. You should not include anything that has to do with violence. Because at the end of the day, if you include violence inside, it will result to nothing but lose. We only lose.
Some believe any form of violence during the Durbar celebrations may put the state at risk and may be forced to go the route of River State, which is currently under state of emergency.
Idan aka ce abin da ya faru a Rivers ya fara jihar Kano, mu al'umma jihar Kano mu za mu koma baya. Domin ba mu da hanyar da za mu samu kuɗi kamar Rivers, tunda mu harkar mu 'yan kasuwa ne mu, ba mu da ina ake aji kaya mu sauki a ba mu kuɗi, sai an kawo daga Lagos an sauki anan za mu samu kuɗi, saboda haka mu kasuwanci mu gada, idan an yi hayaniya kan hawan sallah ko tsakanin magwaban Sanusi da na Aminu Ado an yi hayaniya an samu kafiyu to mu muka cutu.
For the people of Kano, the Salah celebrations are incomplete without the Hawan Durbar Carnival. And they are calling on the two royal fathers, Mohammadu Sanusi II and Aminu Ado-Bayero, to conduct this exercise in peace, to control their supporters, to avoid any breach of peace in the interests of the state. In Kano for News Central, Emmanuel Bagudu.
Let's now bring the conversation back here in Lagos State, where the Lagos State government has dismissed claims that the city is filthy and emits a foul smell following a viral video by NYSC member Ushie Rita Uguamaye and growing concerns from residents.
Everyone. So, I've had it up to here. I can't breathe again. I'm done. This is going almost 3 years of the same complaints over and over again. Now, this place was sold to us as local.
Opposition parties, including the PDP and the Labour Party, have criticized the state government over poor sanitation, citing complaints from residents about foul odors in various parts of the city. And not just the foul odor, like you did see in the video we just played. They had also complained about the quality of water.
However, Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources, Tokunbo Wahab, refuted the allegations, insisting that Lagos is undergoing structured environmental reforms, including modern landfill management, cleaner waterways and improved sanitation systems as part of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu's urban transformation agenda, reiterating its commitment to advanced waste processing and sustainability initiatives to maintain Lagos as a globally competitive city. Join us this morning on Breakfast Central to discuss the city's sanitation And our Jane is the General Manager of the Lagos State Environmental Protection Agency, LASEPA, Dr. Babatunde Ajayi. Very warm welcome to you, and thanks for joining us on Breakfast Central.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to have you.
Thank you.
Now, let's cut to the chase. There's a cross-section of Lagosians that believe the city is smelling. We saw the video that went viral of the NYSC core member that really struck a nerve. Now, is she exaggerating? Is she lying? Or is she exposing an inconvenient truth? What is the true situation with sanitation in Lagos?
Okay. First, I think that whatever she did was, done out of her own frustration. And she said what her supposed reality was. And I don't think you would paintbrush an entire city that is reputed to be one of the cleanest in West Africa, because someone has a street that is dirty. With the amount of work and the booming, teeming population of Lagos, you would not expect to describe an entire city with one person's street. Now, there are different parts of every city, right? But irrespective of where you are in Lagos, you will not go out every day and not see a street sweeper cleaning, right? On my way here today, I've seen at least 10 different street sweepers on different streets. I mean, on your road here, clearly, it doesn't smell, it doesn't stink. So if someone has a personal experience in her own corner, I think that, they have the right to speak their truth, but also you don't then label an entire city dirty because your street stinks.
So whilst I completely agree with you that Rita Ushie did share her experience and, that was her experience, what I do not agree with is the fact that her experience generated a conversation. And if you go on social media, there were many people, whilst there were many who spoke against it, there were also many in support of it who shared the same perspective that they believe Lagos is smelling. And they cited many instances. For example, when you go to Lekki, they're talking about how a number of these fancy, bougie restaurants by the sea, once you stay there, you're not really getting the fresh air that you're paying to get because you're paying exorbitant prices for food. So that has been a collective experience by a number of people, even though there are others who disagree. So is it a matter here of, semantics or trying to look good? Because Lagos State has come out, and I'm sure we'll get into that, with some of their plans and the projects. But is there even an admission that there is a problem here that even needs to be fixed?
So to the extent that, people can voice their complaints and exactly tell what their experiences are, I think a very minority of the city would have concerns with cleaning and, sanitation. When you talk about restaurants by the ocean, I mean, we all go to these places. We don't share the same experience. Everybody goes to all of these restaurants, and they are all over the island. They are all over the mainland. I mean, well, mostly on the island. And, if anybody smells things from these restaurants, because the lagoon is moving, I mean, then it means it is that same restaurant that is polluting. Now, from the EPA, we have shut down a few of them for this exact infraction. If you pour waste into the ocean, you will get shut down for pouring waste in the ocean, right? So these are concerns, right? However, I think that, clearly we can see that there's an opposition agenda, on this matter, and people have sort of exaggerated and blown it out of proportion. If people have concerns in their own community or in their own neighborhood, where they should have taken responsibility for their own sanitation and paid their waste disposal fees and have their waste carted away, then, I mean, when they don't do that, then they should take responsibility. Government will, as much as possible, clean up and clear off the waterways, and we do that all the time. There are videos and pictures all over the place where Loma is clearing the waterways. Yesterday, we still cleared the canals in different corners of Lagos. There's a lot of work going on. If you have 15,000 waste sweepers every day, you have tons and tons of trucks moving around Lagos every day in every corner, then I think there's work that is going on into these things. Also, in as much as people complain in these corners, they refuse to take responsibility for their own contribution, to the waste disposal problem.
Now, I'm happy you mentioned the waste disposal issue, and there are two legs to my question here. Number one is LASEPA does enforce waste disposal rules in Lagos, and quite frankly, if you go around the city, we would see waste in gutters, in walkways, and some places even with the number of street sweepers that we see deployed in Lagos. I see them every day when I drive. So is it a problem with enforcement, especially Kudirat Abiola way, or is Lasepa overwhelmed with the bad behavior of Lagosians?
So first, there's Loma that cuts away solid waste and does the logistics of moving waste and managing solid waste. However, it would be nice for us to, go back a little in memory, down the memory lane. Right, growing up in Lagos, we know that we used to rake our gutters. Each person took responsibility for the gutters in front of their houses. You rake your gutters at the end of the month, Saturday morning, environmental sanitation. You rake it and then pour it in a basket. When the water drains out, you then dispose into these trucks, right? Government will not go in front of every single house to rake your gutters. The front of your house is your responsibility to rake. What has happened is, government has been in court for the environmental sanitation proclamation and how we can restrict movement. However, everybody is expected to take responsibility for the gutters in front of their house. It doesn't make sense, and it doesn't happen anywhere where government comes and cleans all the gutters in front of everybody's houses. The culture we grew up with was that you will take responsibility for the sanitation of the environment because it has dangerous implications on your health.
Yeah, but these guys are now bringing it to the main road. Like there's a market area in Kudirat Abiola where they bring out baskets, solid waste, and align it on the median.
So that's its second conversation. Now, that conversation of people bringing their waste to the main road is really just people who have refused to pay for waste disposal. Every city that we try to hold Lagos to standard with has people paying for waste disposal, even wastewater disposal, right? But in Lagos, people who didn't sort of grow up in a culture where they take responsibility for their waste want to put it in the middle of the road, of course to embarrass government, and then to make sure that government cuts it away without them taking responsibility for it. First of all, Loma has PSPs who go into every community with trucks to cut waste and then have people pay for the waste, right? People try to circumvent this process without taking responsibility. Therefore, they bring their waste to the road and embarrass government. Government still cuts it away every day, right? In the morning, a truck comes and cleans it out. Then again, it comes again the next day and things like that.
But that's an indictment in the government for lax enforcement, because if an example is made of them, they won't return it there the next day. And this is what causes the stench and the embarrassment for everyone.
So there's enforcement every day. And if you follow the media over the past 3-4 weeks, we have now started to post it. Every morning in every single, well, not every local government, but in certain areas where you have a high density of people who try to circumvent the laid down structures. We'll make examples of them. We arrest them, we charge them to court, we sentence them depending on the intensity of their crimes and things like that. But I certainly think that we need to get to that point where you have a lot of citizen participation and engagement, and people must begin to take responsibility for the waste that they generate. If you generate 5 kg of waste on the average per person, each person should know that they need to pay for their waste disposal.
So what do we need to do differently to encourage that awareness and that citizen participation? Because we find that when these same Nigerians go to the UK, for example, you know how to sort your waste, you know how to put the one that needs to be recycled, because there are systems, there are structures, and there are laws that govern their actions there. So I don't know, and this is just piggybacking on what he had said earlier, is it that we need to enforce stronger punitive measures to be able to deter people from throwing their waste anyhow? And what do we need to do to create that interest, and that passion on the part of citizens in how they take care of their waste?
So we all know that the only thing that creates passion is consequence. The only thing that creates that awareness, for doing the right thing is consequence. If you go into any city, any other city that you mentioned, fines and penalties are part of the ways that they put people in check. If you run a red light in some cities, you probably lose a point on driver's license. If you do a second one, you lose your vehicle and things like that, because the fines are strong, right? So for environmental offenses, globally, the fines don't rate environmental offenses as though they are life-threatening,
in Singapore, you can't even chew gum. It's almost life-threatening in Singapore.
Exactly. So we need to, now insist, and that is what we started to do. You would see that we now post people, who are erring on these different environmental regulations. We post them, we sanction them. People who do open defecation, we sanction them every day. Imagine arresting 20 people on the average every single day, and it has gone on for months and months, and you still catch people every morning. You know, in some areas you have to you have to wake up as early as 5 a.m., get our staff to go arrest them and things like that.
All right.
I want to talk about this issue, and a lot of Lagosians have mentioned the Olusosun landfill. That's around the motorway 7-Up area. There's a permanent stench there. I understand there are plans for Lagos State to shut it down in 18 months, and that's quite ambitious because that landfill has been there for decades. What's the plan and for that entire 7-Up area?
So like the High Commissioner said yesterday in an interview that the decommissioning plan for Olusosun is very much on course, right? It's in phases, it's a process. If you read about the decommissioning of landfills globally, it doesn't happen in 6 months, right? It takes a while. There are different processes, and we have started the process. We have started to convert waste to energy at that site. We have started to convert organic waste to fertilizers, you know, and generate some electricity. So there's a lot of waste sorting, there are waste pickers, the plastic components are being recycled and things like that. So the stench has reduced, right? And, you know, we're doing a lot of work.
So you agree that there is a stench?
No, it's a dump site.
Olive, can you do us a favor when you're going back?
It's a dump site.
I'll pass through there.
It is a dump site in Jesus' name. I mean, we have to. So first of all, there is no dump site that is completely clean, right? The air quality of Lagos is better than most people think. We're not top 100 worst air quality in the world.
They've compared it to certain countries. I think like, certain cities. I think Mumbai was one of the cities they compared it to.
No, they can't compare Lagos and Mumbai. Even our industrial zones are clean. I mean, the air quality in this corridor, in this industrial zone in Ikeja, is so clean. This is not even something you find anywhere in the world.
Okay.
Right.
All right. I want us to bring up another conversation about the quality of water in Lagos State. I don't know if you saw the video of a young man, Kejigewa, where he was ranting about how he's paying exorbitant fees. And this is a reality for especially people on the island. It's almost like a luxury to get clean water. And the landlords are charging exorbitant rents and yet still not able to provide a decent water, decent potable water. I mean, it's almost unimaginable. You go to the UK and you see people drinking from their tap and you are thinking, what an adoration. You want to die? Because we're not used to that. We don't even imagine that it's possible to drink clean water from the tap. So what is LASEPA, what's the Lagos State government doing about the quality of water in Lagos, particularly on the island? And will there be maybe penalties for those who are charging exorbitant fees and still not able to provide
maybe plans
water?
for future pipe-borne waters, because I remember growing up, we used to have
What part of Lagos did you grow up?
Ikeja or Fala.
Okay. Yeah. So I can tell you that, you know, there was a time when we drank straight from tap water in Lagos, and we're returning to those times. Lagos has evolved a lot, and is clearly an evolving city with the kind of population we have, with the kind of mass, you know, influx of people that we have. I think that we have handled it fairly well. The population explosion has also put pressure on infrastructure, which is where, you know, buildings begin to spring up in areas where government is still planning, right? To plan a city is not child's play. However, for those places where there's no pipe-borne water, the city has started to, you know, put things in place. If you follow the Lagos State Water Corporation and all of their media engagements in the past few weeks, they have launched two new, what's it called now, centers or two new stations, you know, from where they will be piping water. I know Ayobo is one of them, and they're piping water into those communities. Like I said again, Lagos is big, right? However, in the meantime, the city also has a water regulatory commission that ensures that every water you are buying is up to standard. It meets certain standards, you know, certain portability standards. And that regulatory commission sort of regulates all people, everybody that manufactures bottled water, sachet water, and things like that, you know. And that has helped us stem the tide of waterborne diseases. So for houses that don't have pipe-borne water, it's going to be a matter of time, but pipe-borne water will
What time are we looking at? Because I think I've lived on the island for over a decade now. And a number of the houses I have either lived in or people I know have had terrible water.
But what has
water
happened?
that is yellow, literally.
So again, the island is an island that is sitting on high salinity water, right, from the ocean. And you expect that if you dig directly from there, from the borehole, you will have that kind of water. But what then happens is that you have to purify it. There is almost every compound or every community on the island has that water purification system. And that is what people have depended on. What we have also done is to standardize the water purification systems so that people get good water to use in their houses. Is there a trust problem between, a locally purified system and potable water from government? Yes. However, that trust deficit is managed by the provision or the presence or standardization of bottled water and things like that. So I think the city is not sleeping. Lagos is very much on top of it.
I just want us to quickly wrap on this part of the conversation. For those who are currently living on the island that don't have access to decent water, and I know this because I went house hunting for a while, and I only just got an apartment last year. So it was terrible to get an apartment that had decent water. For those who are in these positions and are paying exorbitant, is there any remedy for them?
I think the conversation about exorbitant fee is more private sector.
Regardless of whether they're paying exorbitant fees, they have a right. They have a right to decent water.
Yes. I get you. It's the third time you're mentioning it, which is why I have, had to mention it. But yes, everybody has a right to decent water. What we have done, like I said, is that we make sure that the water you have access to is clean enough. Standardize the purification systems in places where water is not piped. So it then behoves on you to hold your landlord by the neck and make sure that his purification system is up to standard, one. Number two, if you're drinking water, it has NAFDAC regulation, but what's got registration. However, the Water Regulatory Commission also ensures that they do the right thing, even when nobody's watching. Unscheduled visits and things like that.
Water Regulatory Commission, Lagos State Consumer Protection Agency.
Yes.
So we can run and take the landlord or petition our landlord on the island if they don't provide that quality service.
Yes.
Now let's talk about, I want us to go back to air quality just before we wrap this conversation and the plans for Lagos State. Lagos State has this initiative, it's calling the Trees for Lagos campaign. It sounds good, 50,000 trees in 2 years. That sounds very ambitious. And if you go to the best cities around the world, New York has Central Park, they have green areas, and we've seen that this generator fumes also contribute to the bad air quality in Lagos. Are there plans for Lagos to deal with its own electricity now that the laws have been relaxed? Let's generate and go off-grid from NEPA so we can get rid of generators. And how is this 50,000 trees in 2 years? Is it just a PR soundbite, or Lagos State is really serious about this?
First of all,
there's a trust deficit. I have to ask these questions as a journalist.
Okay, so I think it's very clear. So there's an agency called LASPAC, Lagos Parks and Gardens Agency, and that agency is charged with this responsibility. I can tell you that we've gone almost halfway with 50,000 in the first few months of this ambitious target, and this is not to count the already planted trees. We have planted over 100, and this is the ones that government has planted, right? So many roads, I'm sure even WEMCO has trees across the corridor, right? Along that corridor, those trees are maintained by LASPAC. So it's not just planting trees and it overgrows and everything like that. So Agidingbe everywhere. So LASPAC has been doing an amazing work with trees and tree planting in Lagos in different communities. And I don't think that will stop. LASPAC also has parks across Lagos, so we have parks in Obale, in the parks all over Lagos, where people can go sit down, chill, and do all kinds of things. Even at, what's it called now? Osborne. So there's an Osborne Park,
Through Ikoyi.
Through Ikoyi, yeah. And there are quite a number of them all over the place. But because we don't pay attention to it, and we're not, very active participatory citizens, we don't get to know these things. For air quality, we publish data. LASEPA publishes data on air quality every week. And what we've done so far is to make sure that we even measure and monitor. Wherever we find that is a heavy polluter, we sanction, penalize, fine them. We also know that, again, the culture of consequence, we've created that consequence culture where people cannot just pollute as they like. Bigger than or more than any African city, we are more concerned and conscious about air quality. We hosted the Clean Air Forum last year. And again, Lagos is above a lot of these pedestrian concerns. We're on a big scale, but doing much better than most of the cities,
I really wish that we had more time. I would have loved us to explore, an interrelation or a relation between poverty and, environmental protection and looking at, especially at the current economic realities and seeing how much that has impacted the work that you do. Well, we've run out of time.
And noise pollution.
Exactly. Too. That's another important
My
conversation
neighbors
to have.
with their generators and the fumes, you know.
Just buy a gun and kill them.
No,
you don't want the blocks to pick.
You don't want them to pick that. Okay, thank you so much.
It was a joke, please.
Thank you so much.
Allegedly.
Dr. Babatunde Ajayi for joining us this morning. We look forward to having you. We hope we are getting your word and when we call you again, you will come.
Of course.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
You.
We're going to quick break, and when we come back, more conversations this morning.
You're welcome back to Breakfast Central. The Dangote Petroleum refinery suspension of petroleum product sales in Naira has sparked fears of a price hike among marketers. The refinery cited a mismatch between its sales proceeds and crude oil purchase obligations, which are denominated in US dollars. More than 5 days after the announcement, the refinery has yet to tell marketers how to deal with how the dealers will buy PMS going forward.
Following the announcement, private depot owners in Lagos increased the cost of loading petrol to around 900 naira per litre, up from 850 naira per litre. The Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, have warned retailers against panic buying, advising them to avoid stockpiling fuel. The IPMAN spokesman Chinedu Ukadike disclosed that the federal government and Dangote refinery are resolving their misunderstanding to allow the resumption of the Naira-for-Crude sales. He stated that stakeholders are waiting to hear the conclusion from either party. Joining us now is Chinedu Ukadike, Publicity Secretary of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, good morning.
Should we be worried? Should we be worried, Mr. Ukadike? You've asked Nigerians and retailers not to panic buy, but that's not the experience that we have in Nigeria. Typically, once there's a slight sense of trouble, everyone is rushing to, bulk buy and just stock up in case, because we've experienced a lot of trauma when it comes to the purchase of petrol. So should we be worried?
That was why I said nobody should get worried because Dangote is still selling petroleum products via vessel and in dollars. So there is still constant supply of petroleum products via vessel than the gallantry. The gallantry is where it becomes a little bit easier and faster, for marketers to be able to take these petroleum products in Naira and load it immediately with their trucks and move to the different destination. So this issue of Naira to crude erupted, and federal government suspended giving Dangote this product in Naira and decided to do it in dollars. So Dangote in turn decided to sell in crude in dollars. So it will definitely affect the price of the petroleum product because of the value of exchange, which has already affected the price. And you see the price is going up. The product that was almost around 835 naira now, we're almost selling at 900. Some are selling 850 something. Now the product is now almost around 900 now, like 40% 40 naira increase. So these are just policies of government that have just changed and skyrocketed the purchase of petroleum products. We have had uninterrupted supply of petroleum products from Dangote, and our marketers are also loading from the cannery day in, day out. So this policy will definitely truncate the distribution of petroleum products. But we also know that some of these government policies can also be reviewed. And by the time the presidential committee on crude oil will look at the reflex effect and the galloping inflation, and also the pressure on Naira, the pressure on Naira, they will also review, their stand and see whether they will still go back to continue to supply Dangote crude oil in Naira.
Is there any way that this could have been avoided as well?
Yes, definitely. The federal government, stated their challenges of not having enough for the domestic supply, based on their international commitments and how they have locked up the sales of crude oil, to some committed international buyers. And this issue of Naira-for-Crude was just test run and expressly approved by Mr. President to be able to ensure that product cost is a little bit more cheaper than that of the one that is being imported. It was also reported last 2 weeks that imported products can be sold at 775 Naira. So if that be the case, the federal government is also looking at why are we supplying products to Dangote in Naira, and also imported products is being sold at 775 Naira. Although it was speculated, but none of the importers have sold products at that cost. Dangote still remains the only refinery that sold petroleum products cheaper in all ramifications, including those that are being imported. So most of these speculations are also thrown into the market by these market seekers or market jobbers who either want to see revert in the importation of petroleum products. But definitely you will find out that within these few weeks under review,
okay,
the dollar has increased from almost dollar was around 1,495. Now dollar is being sold around 1,000, at the parallel market being sold around 1,500. So you see, just only one little policy have changed the narratives, and also have changed the pump price.
Now, Chief Fukaduke, can you paint us a win-win situation for everyone? Which ideal scenario, looking at your experience in the petroleum industry, would favor the consumers, the Dangote Group, independent marketers, and the Nigerian economy in general? What's the ideal situation?
Yeah, the deregulation policy encourages competition, and that competition, there are these variables that are supposed to play. The variables of how do you get your crude oil? That is number one. Two, where are you refining? That is number two. So the logistics of distributing that product, that is number three. Four, the pump price of these products at every various filling stations. That are the things you need to consider in terms of supply of petroleum products at the supply chain. But if these things are not being considered, you will find out that the price of petroleum products will keep on skyrocketing, and some unimaginable people will be profiteering from this little crisis. So the win-win situation is that we are very cool and calm with what Mr. President have done by giving Dangote crude oil in Naira, and you will find out since that period, the PMS is going down gradually. From 1,600, it came down to 1,001, to 900, to even 815 Naira. to those that are buying from the vessel, they are almost giving a product at 780 naira. So you find out that with this competition, the product is going down. And if actually federal government will continue and consistently, supply products to Dangote in Naira, it will be a win-win situation. Dangote will get the crude oil in Naira. He will refine the product, sold to independent marketers in Naira. And in turn, we will sell this product to you in Naira. Because the threat of exchange must come at a particular point in time. Mm-hmm. If Dangote say, I'm from the gallantry, I will no longer say in Naira. It means that we, the independent marketers, will go and start hustling for dollar at the primary market and gather it to pay Dangote. And it's a lot of exchange. And that gap of foreign exchange is another added inflation or another increase in pump price. So if we do Naira, it is a win-win situation for both Dangote, both independent marketers, both major marketers, both members of Nugasa who are suppliers, because the president of Nugasa, Mr. Bennett Okorie, mentioned this thing, that this sales of crude oil in dollars will definitely influence the price of petrol.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I mean, you really just hit the nail on the head. In terms of how this might impact the weakening of our currency, and there will be an added desire, an added search for the US dollar, which would, of course, impact inflation. So now you've also said that all the stakeholders involved are having a conversation, the NNPC, Dangote Refinery. When should we expect to get feedback?
As quickly as possible, because things are deteriorating. Products from product that you normally buy at 835 naira in your pumps or 850 in your pump are now sold for 900. And we don't know what tomorrow will look like. Because if you continue to allow the issue of backloading vessel distribution, that vessel distribution, a lot of hiccups. By the time they finish clearing the massa, all these things are being paid in dollars. And this is what Nigerian government should look at. Why would we be in our country? We cannot give strength to our Naira. We want to pay a government agency like NIMASA or Port Authority, you still pay them in dollars. When you want to hire a vessel, they will pay in dollars. That trade of exchange is another cost in our petroleum pricing and distribution. So these are the things that government will look at and ensure that this thing is being limited and it's seamlessly, business is being done in Naira, so that this product, like I speculated before, that with this competition that is ongoing, and the rate the Dangote is being producing petroleum product, and the NNPC are also trying to compete, trying to put their refineries together and ensure that they are in the market so there will be no monopolistic market.
Talking of monopolistic...
products will be sold at 500 naira at the end of the day.
Yes, and that brings me to my question, because in a recent interview you granted, you said once the situation stabilizes, there's a possibility that the Dangote refinery might further crash the price of PMS at the pump. What gives you this confidence to think so?
Well, what gives me this confidence is very simple. When they started with their AGO, I'm talking about precedent, petroleum pricing precedent. When they started with their AGO was almost around 1,800 naira. And now AGO is around 1,150, 1,001. Even though at the time they sold at 900. These are domestic refiners. And other refineries are around. He's been charging them to ensure that he's on top of the market, that he holistically controls the market. So by so doing, he would like to woo the off-taking of petroleum products by independent marketers, MEMAN members, and MOMA members. You will also find out today that most of the filling stations that have been given to NNPC have been recovered. Either they are taught to Emirs or the other. So marketers have free access, uninterrupted access, to be able to break the bulk of petroleum product directly from the refinery. There is no more round-tripping of distribution of petroleum products. So those are the hiccups that will also definitely have to increase price. Now that Dangote said we will sell in dollar, it has limited the independent market as we normally take directly from Dangote.
All right.
But if he's selling in Naira, and also selling in guarantee, there are some certain exchanges and logistics with independent marketers cannot go into because of the huge financial involvement. That is why we can be able to buy 2 million liter, 3 million liter, 5 million liter directly from the guarantee, take our trucks to that particular place, and start the competition in our filling stations.
Yep. All right. Ukadike Chinedu, you've shared with us what the challenges are. I mean, in my last question, I asked you when we're expecting to hear from stakeholders. You said as soon as possible. As soon as possible doesn't sound like we know for sure. So it's like you also are hoping to hear from them, so we're not sure. Right? Is that the true position?
Yes, definitely. It's between the federal government and Dangote. We are just spectators. We'll continue to encourage government to do the needful to be able to save the energy security.
Ukadike Chinedu, thank you so much for joining us this morning to have this conversation. We certainly look forward to settlement that would sort of meet the needs of every party involved. And as a Nigerian consumer, I'm hoping that it leans in our favor as well. Thank you for your time with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Quite a conversation we've had this morning. He, in his conversation, said Nigerians shouldn't panic buy and stockpile. I think that's almost impossible. Because it's not even just with him. Sorry to butt in. It's not just about the Nigerian retailers. It's the filling stations, because a number of them will now start to hoard. You drive past 5 filling stations and they've shut down because it looks like there's trouble.
And then you see the speed they will use to adjust their pumps. They won't say they're still selling old, cheaper stock.
Of course, they will immediately increase it to 900.
So far, so good. I mean, things have been, the prices are
I don't know, I haven't bought. I'm going to buy today, Sha.
Parts of the metropolis.
And I'm not panic buying. My petrol is almost
there are no queues, so maybe it's the time that I've moved around, but so far, so good.
Well, I'm hoping that that's not the situation that we'll meet, that in the next few days this is resolved, because the one thing that has stressed us the most in Nigeria, there are a number of things, but you see the trauma of petrol. We live in that trauma so much so that people, and not everybody can afford to fill their tank, but those who can afford to fill their tank, every time they get to the filling station, they fill their tank. I know people who, once it goes down by one line, they're going to fill it up because of the trauma of anything can happen anytime.
You don't want to
be caught unawares.
It's crazy.
And in Nigeria, it's almost like everybody wants to know someone that either owns a filling station or works at a filling station, or knows someone that either owns.
I know people that have started dating petrol attendants because of first custody.
Do you blame them?
They're in a strong relationship.
Do you blame them? Everybody's hustling for their future. I'm
telling you.
You know? So, because, I mean, it's something that would impact the quality of your life. For those, we can't run away from it. True. You need petrol for your cars. You need petrol for your generators. If you are living in an estate that doesn't need petrol, you will buy things in the market. The things you will buy in the market will be largely dependent on how accessible petrol is. So, it's a very big part of our lives. But thank you for joining us so far. We have more conversations this morning, but let's take you through a recap of the conversations we've had and let you know what's coming up next. This morning, tension in Kano over planned parallel Durbar by contending Emirs. Emmanuel brought us that report, and also looking at the Lagos State government refuting the Smelly City claim, saying that the state is evolving. We're joined by the DG of LASEPA. We also looked at fuel marketers fearing price hike as federal government suspends sale to Dangote. Ukadike Chinedu joined us for that conversation.
And coming up on Breakfast Central this morning, Akpotu Dragons recall INEC receives petition. I would also be looking at the newspaper front pages. Remember, you can call in and talk to us. And Olive will be telling us what Nigerians are saying about the Kogi Central recall process. You don't want to miss that. Breakfast Central continues shortly.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. It's time for us to review the newspapers. If you'd like to be a part of our newspaper review, the numbers to call are on your TV screen. Please call the number, react to any of the stories, and even if it's not just the newspaper stories, maybe any of the stories we've looked at this morning. We'll be beginning this morning with Nigerian Tribune. On the front page of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, 2027, INEC Atiku Group defer over new party registration. We are frustrating registration of new political parties, coalition of political leaders say. INEC responds to them saying, follow due process. We also have here alleged 33.2 billion naira arms sleaze. EFCC to arraign ex-NSA Dasuki, former NNPC director, afresh today. 5 Uni-Osun students, 5 others die in auto crash in Ikire. It's really sad. Their souls rest in peace. Police detained 3 officers for alleged extortion from content creator in Lagos. I'd like to see that story. Ifon Ilobu, Adeleke visits conflict zones, orders distribution of food, relief materials, warns perpetrators of violence prosecuted without delay. Natasha's recall, constituents submit petition to INEC. I won't apologize, she says. And let me add to what she said. This injustice will not be sustained. Those were her last words as she stormed out of the red chambers. Federal government orders probe into Kogi jailbreak. 5 fleeing inmates recaptured, according to the NCOS. Obasanjo and Kuka disagree on models of democracy. We're going to say something.
You know the punishments for jailbreak? I believe they add to your sentence. If you were meant to spend 2 years, they'll give you...
Jara.
Yes. They give you a little bit of jara. Now, moving on to the next paper we have here is the Daily Independent newspapers. The headline says 16 airports drag down federal government as 4 raking 96.4% of 358.2 billion naira. Analysts urge hybrid concession models for Nigeria's airports. A lot of governors of states often want to leave legacy projects and they go into airlines. They go into airport building projects when they could use the airports, functioning airports, or regional airports of neighboring states because they want to say or claim to fame that they built this airports. And this airport is really dragging down the federal government because you have to put NACA staff, there's a lot of resources that go into staffing these airports that are not economically viable. So the point is, and if you talk to these people from those, let me not offend anyone, from those states, they will tell you that, don't you know about development? Don't you want us to have development? It's not priority. We've seen the state of primary schools and universities in some of the states is nothing to write home about. And you think the biggest priority for your state should be having a commercial airport. A lot of
the other things, so basically reflection of what the priorities of the state are. I'd like us to also talk briefly on the models of democracy, and this has been an ongoing conversation. Obasanjo and Kuka disagree on models of democracy. Even Peter Obi, I know Peter Obi did speak about democracy, talked about, there was a clip I saw where he mentioned that he was declared governor and he didn't have to pay 1 naira to the judiciary.
And
that
even
can't happen today.
an opposition president called him to check up on him because he was a member of APGA then and former President Obasanjo was in PDP. And it was reflecting on how things have evolved down the way, down the years, I beg your pardon. So we really need to question and look at, have a rethink of our model or the type of democracy we're practicing.
Again, some people would argue that maybe the conversation might be to check what system of government should be applicable. And I say this because when we've had conversations about this in different corners, in different circles, you see people who would bring up communist societies and see how well a number of them are thriving in comparison to the countries and communities that practice what is proposed to be democracy.
I, for one, would suggest a parliamentary system of government because the ministers will be part of the government, the prime minister. We don't have we don't have senators and then you don't have parliamentarians and still have ministers. They will be part of the government. The prime minister comes to argue policies, they debate policies, there's prime minister's questions every week and citizen engagement.
And then you don't feel like power is centralized, too much power is centralized at the center. We have a properly decentralized government. These are conversations that will continue, but I want us to quickly also talk on police, unless you wanted to talk about another story.
No, I just wanted to chip in on federal government probes Kogi jailbreaks, vows to capture fleeing inmates. Looking at the economic situation in the country, as an incentive, they might have to put a reward system, wanted. How do you have a situation where prisoners escaped and we are not even seeing their images flash on news screen? How are we supposed to get them back to society? How do you engage citizens in all of that? So if the government if the federal government, which falls under the purview, put a reward, 100,000 naira for the capture of or for information on this person, people are looking for money. I might go to Kogi State after this and do a Michael Scofield.
Well, that's another important thing. Again, reveals the fact that our security architecture is one that should be looked into. In organized crimes, there are certain things you can't do because you know that there are cameras everywhere that will capture you. There are CCTV cameras.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they may not capture your exact face, but they'll capture your form. And in no distant time, you'll be able to pick where these people are. We're a long way from there. I look forward to the time where, you know, people know that, because if you had cameras, it doesn't mean that there will still not be crimes, but there'll be a reduced incidence of crimes because people know that if they're not caught by this camera, they'll be caught by another camera. And by the time...
People can identify, yes.
You can identify thieves. And then it then comes back again to, I mean, this is not directly related to this, but state policing. I'm looking at security in general. Yes. It comes back to state policing. It comes back to, you know, the local policing. And people being able to say, assign police officers to certain areas. The police officers know the people know their security operatives. Do you know that some people would argue with you that when in certain communities where crime is committed, they know. If you go and talk to the ballet,
local intelligence.
You go and meet the ballet will tell you rest. They will arrange. They will find the person who took what you're looking for and bring it back to you.
And the last time, and kudos to the Nigerian police force, the last time they had a recruitment exercise when the constables graduated from police college, they were actually posted to their local communities, and they believed they would have native intelligence and understand the terrain better. Because how do you, a man comes from Bauchi State, you send him to Ikeja. He didn't grow up there. He doesn't know anything about the culture. How do you expect him to function at his optimum level? So these are conversations we should
Still talking about the police, I want to go back to a story I saw on the Daily, on the Nigerian Tribune. And on that, I think it's the bottom left, where it said police detained 3 officers for alleged extortion from content creator in Lagos. I looked into the details of that story, and it was talking about how the Lagos State Police Command arrested 3 officers accused of extorting 150,000 naira from travelers along the Ikeja-Bega Road. And they talked about how a certain young man, Ramadan Adiola, who he detailed it on X, he traveled with his, he was going with his colleague, and then the police requested to look through his phone, saw incriminating evidence being his Binance app, and then, you know, it went downhill from there. We'll come back to talk more about this. We have Trudy calling from Berger. Good morning, Trudy. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, good morning, Olive and my brother in the studio.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I want to react to the newspaper reports. One is, I want to react about recalling Natasha Ado-Bayero. You see, Nigeria has gone so bad that even when the truth airing before you and I, somebody will come in and be telling you that it is a lie, that it is not true, that what you are saying is not true. Nigeria has gone so bad that you can't even speak the truth anymore. I know that those things will play out considering the kind of government we have. A government that does not want to listen to the people, rather they want to shut you up. Don't say anything, keep quiet, let me do what I want to do. I am not surprised. Those people were hired. If you see people that were hired, you will know they were called for empowerment. And all of a sudden, they switched empowerment to signing a document. Oh, what do you expect of people who are hungry? Market women who doesn't have any. Oh, of course. They will in, they will go in because they want money. So I'm not surprised. Now, secondly, when you mentioned about the police extorting, that police checkpoint, I mean, is very notorious. You now talk about police in this area. Is it not poverty? For me, it is poverty and greed. If you don't want to be a policeman, please, can you take a leave?
All right.
That's what the kind of people we have in this country, they continue extorting money, even inside it and not at the express. Just try it, you will see what they're saying. Thank you and God bless you.
All right, thank you very much, Judy, for calling. And
I love the point he ended with. It's a voluntary organization. If you think the salary or the pay or the working conditions are all good for you, you resign honorably. The only reason why and it's criminal because you carry a firearm doesn't mean you should extort or you should demand money from me. You're not better than any other citizen or any other professional. It's just very wrong. And I like that once there's video evidence, the police makes an example of this bad eggs, and we have to clearly state that this is not a reflection of the entire Nigerian police force.
Right. All right, let's move to other papers and see how many we can take before we wrap up the segment. On the front page of this day newspaper, Obasanjo again says democracy has failed in Africa. Obi says it's collapsing in Nigeria. Kuka Tambuwal differ. Anyoku warns against military coup in sub-Saharan Africa. Obi's aspiration, not democracy, is dead, says Omokri. Atiku, others shower praises on Ihedioha at 60 now. All of this was obviously happening at the celebration of at Ihedioha's 60th celebration, where they had opportunities to be on a panel session and basically speak about the ills plaguing the country. Chatham House, Nigeria's failure to curb corruption leads to impunity clientelism. We see here, there's a picture of a signing going on. It's a signing of MOU between LIFC, the City UK, and Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office. But that's all on this day. Now let's go to the Leadership newspaper. Okay, what do we have? The Leadership newspaper. The headline says, ahead of 2027. There we go, 2027. We have never finished. We've not even gotten to half of 2025. Wow, this is very serious. Personal ambitions may weaken opposition coalition, says the headline of the Leadership newspaper. The rider reads, stakeholders yet to agree on grey areas. Lobby of party arrowheads intensifies. Coalition still work in progress. So why do you announce it? I mean, I guess that's what it is. INEC considers constituents' petition to recall Natasha, and I hope when they're doing the verification process of those signatures, those videos that saw them allegedly, that showed this constituents or some people allegedly manipulating the signatures will be tendered as evidence. And also, they need to investigate the speed at which they gathered such a huge number of signatures. When we look at what Nigerians are saying, there's one of the tweets that did a breakdown as to if we're getting this in a number of days, that means this is at the number of people that would have been signing. Mathematical, statistical but it's just, breakdown. It's just really unfortunate to say that we are in a democracy where it feels like people are not able to voice their dissent. Women, in this case, because Natasha Aputi represents, and I think that is strategic on the part of those who have politicized it, to then get a coalition of women to be the ones to champion this cause. So but let's hear Jubril calling from Niger State. Good morning. Thanks for calling. Please go ahead.
Hello, good morning. Good morning. Please go ahead with your comments. Regarding the last newspaper that was presented, the Leadership newspaper that talked about personal interest may hinder the process of the coalition. Yeah, it's actually true. Because if you look at it,
Jubril, you have to turn off your TV set, please.
Atiku is there as well. So you can see that at the end of the day, personal interest may have to play out in the fact that yes, we all know that yes, the northern state has represented for 8 years that passed.
Jubril, we have to go on now. Thank you so much for calling and sharing your thoughts with us. He is of the view that personal ambition may weaken opposition coalition. You see that there have been talks of opposition coalition as we move to 2027, but where will the opposition coalition be? Will it be the People's Democratic Party? Yes. Will it be the Labour Party? Will they form a brand new party? INEC has said, you know, follow the rules. At the end of the day, follow due process. I think that the PDP, which ought to be the main opposition, needs a lot of work. They have a lot of work that they need to do for themselves. I mean, even the House is still PDP divided. Is on fire, right? You look at Rivers State, PDP's governor has been suspended. You look at, you know, even at the Senate, senatorial level, Natasha Akpoti
I mean,
is
even
a
the
PDP
FCT minister is a PDP member, PDP in APC clothing.
Exactly. So if the PDP could not or cannot sanitize its own house, and remember the first time that the PDP governors, former governor and present governor, had an issue, they required an APC president to step into the field. So PDP has a lot of work to do, a lot of cleaning in-house, and to ask themselves if they truly are the opposition that they claim to be.
It's like you've not settled the issues in your house and you plan to take another wife. That's
which is typically what we see a number of people do. But these are the stories that we have this morning on the front pages of the newspapers. Thank you very much for joining. But just to touch on a few more stories, you've touched on personal ambitions, may weaken opposition coalition. Still on the front page of the leadership, U.S. to remove condition of entry on vessels from Nigerian ports. INEC considers constituents' petition to recall Natasha. Federal government orders probe of Kogi jailbreak. Obasanjo Anyoku decries state of democracy in Africa. Dead Nigerians, others without will, may lose property in UK. My goodness, we'll come back to this. We're equipping Nigerian youth to compete globally, says President Tinubu. And final one, 956 more Nigerians rescued from Libya prison in 3 months. We have Ibrahim calling in from Abuja. Good morning, Ibrahim. Thank you for calling. Please go ahead with your comment.
Welcome.
Hello, good morning, Ibrahim. Go ahead and talk to us, please. Okay.
Fortunately, it does not seem like we will be able to talk to Ibrahim today, but thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to everyone who stayed tuned for our newspaper reviews. A number of the conversations and the callers had talked about Senator Natasha Akpoti Uduaghan's impending or potential recall, and that will be the conversation we're looking at this morning on what Nigerians are saying. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Now it's time for us to head to X to find out what Nigerians are saying about the potential of Senator Natasha Akpoti Uduaghan being recalled. Now, an organization and a group under the aegis of Kogi Central Women Development Association have, of course, called for her her recall. Yes, they've called for her recall. Now, we did see videos, and we've been following up with this. We did see videos alleging to be people who are pending their signatures to Senator Natasha Akpoti's recall. And if you understand what the process is, of course, the constituents within the constituency would append their signatures, submit it to INEC. INEC will verify it. And, you know, these are the steps that should be taken. But there's also been criticism against these people who have allegedly recalled. There have been speculations as to who may have been behind the recall, the authenticity of it or lack thereof, and then the potential of it having been manipulated or politicized. In an interview with the Punch newspaper, Debo Ologunagba had alleged or had, inferred that the people behind this are Senator Godswill Akpabio and Yahaya Bello. Speaking of Yahaya Bello, the conversations and speculations are that the people of Kogi Central want to kick Senator Natasha out so that former Governor Yahaya Bello can come in as the new senator. These are all just speculations. We don't know what the true position is, but they have also queried the validity of the signatures that have been appended. But let's hear from the organization spokesperson who has championed the cause for Natasha to be kicked out because she feels that Natasha has not carried herself in the manner in which she should. Let's take a look at this video.
Up to 6 months. the issues she's raised on sexual harassment.
Talking about sexual harassment, Natasha, what you do on her is above 40 years. I find it very alarming that you are raising a sexual harassment issue without evidence. If she had brought evidence, trust me, the entire Kogites would have risen up to say no to Senator Akpabio's harassment. But you've been saying sexual harassment without basis. If you say you are being sexual harassed, what are the evidences and why is it now that she's bringing it up? She said it was a time some months ago, everything some months ago. If you are being sexual harassed, we, the entire Kogites, will rise up for her if she has evidence. We are asking, if you are being harassed and you have gone to the international community to allege somebody of sexual harassment, it should be backed up with proof and evidence. We are not going to be driven by emotions, crying. It's not going to solve this. We are saying, give us evidence where Senator Godswill Akpabio, the Senate President, harassed you sexually. Natasha, what you do on her? It's not a baby. She's an adult. And as such, she would have had evidences where the Senate President either sexual harassed her by writing or by anything. But now you're just saying he sexual harassed you. We have given now weeks to present to the entire Kogi Central Senatorial District people where the evidence is. But till now, no evidence. And we cannot afford not to have a senator.
This again proves that people don't even understand what constitutes sexual harassment. And you're saying that it has to be written for it to be sexual harassment. Make it make sense. You know, if somebody makes statements and says to you things, I mean, a number of the statements she's alleged, if those statements were true, then that will constitute sexual harassment, don't you think? But then again, the courts will be the place, the best place to determine if there is a sexual harassment claim here. But they should have even given her the chance for a fair trial, is what a number of Nigerians are saying. Now, that was Honorable Charity Ijese-Omole, Senior Special Assistant to Governor Ahmed Usman Ododo on youth and women mobilization. Coming back to the Yahaya Bello conversation, the reason why they have suspected, again, that Yahaya Bello might have been behind this is because of a picture of this same woman with Yahaya Bello. And you know that Yahaya Bello and his successor, Usman Ododo, have such a great relationship, such that when the EFCC tried to come and arrest him, you know, he stood there with him, Aluta Continua, Victoria, etc., sort of impeding or preventing him from gaining access. You can see the picture. Social media users have been posting this picture. They've been retweeting it, saying, look at her with Yahaya Bello. If they are together, in a way, he may just be influenced. But let's see what the tweets are. It's not my words. Nigerians are saying this. Let's go straight into the conversations. 250,000 signatures secured in 5 days to recall Natasha Akpoti. This will translate to 50,000 people signing daily, which then means 35 people signed per minute if the entire 24 hours, day and night, with no break period, was spent collecting signatures. This is someone trying to make sense of how they could get 250,000 tweets. He says, so they want to replace Senator Natasha Akpoti with Yahaya Bello. Kogi people again. The next tweet, moving on from non-conformists, says 250,000 out of 488,000 voters are pushing to recall a senator who won with just 54,074 votes. Nigerian political drama never ends. How long will we keep up with this cycle, LMAO? Really? Where were all these people, those over 200,000 people? Where were they when the elections were happening? Why didn't they come out to vote? All of a sudden, they are interested in the recall process for Senator Natasha. You see why people are saying that the suspect is shady. Yomi Ado-Bayero says, if you want to play politics, play politics. If it is content creation, do that. Natasha forgot she's in politics. No pity here. When things were sweet, it wasn't our business. Now, Yahaya Bello's lizard has found a cracked wall. He's going in. It's simple. You see, he's saying, just like Charity said, the game is the game. Moving away from Yomi Ado-Bayero, Izu says, Natasha Akpoti Uduaghan left Nigeria in search of justice, even with her position as a senator and a wife to the family she's married to. Now, you that have no connections and zero platform still believe that you can get justice in Nigeria with the current system here? Question mark. Food for thought. The next tweet from Real Me Abdul says, her name is Charity, but this Charity begins at Yahaya Bello's office, not at home. That's very shady. And Engineer Habib says, in all of Natasha's interviews, all she cares about is her Senate job and salary and what have you. At no point did she show any worry or concern for the people in her constituency. That alone justifies her recall. And the final tweet, okay, after this we have the final one. Other countries are moving forward, but Nigeria is going backwards. People are still in a room rigging in 2025, forging people's signatures. No shame, no remorse, no dignity, no future. Yahaya Bello stole 82 billion naira, and he's still moving around in Kogi State, and he's still being praised. Thinking about Nigerians, it's giving me sleepless nights. The headache is headaching me. Move away from here to our final tweet. Foza Doza, Foza Billion says, Natasha's issue just shows me that I have to accelerate my madness because my money, my power, my status does not and won't protect me. The law won't protect me when uselessness is done to me. It's my madness that will determine how I survive. I have tried the be calm and be wise tactics. It has only brought me useless insults from incompetent men. Be angry and loud like Natasha. Silence is rewarded with more abuse. Hashtag Happy Women's Month. Again, it reminds me of the woman who says, be a bad girl, like Millie Odiambo in Kenya. But that's all that we have about what Nigerians are saying. Benga, any final thoughts as we close out on the conversation?
Bello's office, and we've seen where charity begins, and it's quite sad. I saw a tweet saying, you know, in all of this, she didn't mention constituency. Do you realize that she was prevented from making motions on the grounds of this sexual harassment? And if she can't pass forward a motion, how is she going to represent or voice concerns for her constituents? So maybe you should educate yourself more on this.
Politics is politicking in Nigeria. At the end of the day, the recall process has started. The next step will be for INEC to verify the signatures, and we look forward to bringing updates in that regard. But that's all we have today on the show. Thank you for joining us on What Nigerians Are Saying and on Breakfast Central. We'll see you again tomorrow. I am Olive Emodi.
And I'm Benga Borough. I'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.